It's so weird in today's world when people talk about authenticity. It feels gross, to be honest, because of social media. Because you're real and you're being vulnerable and you're being authentic. But we know on the other side of that, it's curated and it is semi-authentic, but the word has gotten abused so much because of social media. Sorry, I'm taking a drink of my tea. That sometimes we don't even know, or we tend to forget what authenticity really means. I could care less about whether people are authentic on social media because we all know everything is curated. Even these are curated. You guys aren't getting a whole picture of my whole life. I'm giving you snapshots of parts of me. And that's okay. But I want to talk and move in an authentic way day to day. Yeah, so when I was a kid, I was like every kid, just me, right? I was a huge goofball, and I liked to sing and dance, and I loved loving on my friends, and I loved hugs, a super hugger. And I love making people laugh. So I just thought I was the most hilarious thing ever. And I would come up with the jokes, or I would, do jump scares and pop out of places to like make people scream and then laugh. And I just was a really, really flamboyant, loud, goofy, quiet, ham. I just was. I was very eclectic, and I had my own version of what I thought fashion was when my mom wasn't dressing me up. And I always loved imagination and play. And so I was always creating and thinking and wanting to do art and dance and sing and paint and just do all of these really artistic things. I want to get back to her. But the version of her before, people were like, girl, you too much. The version of her before the side looks and the rolled eyes and the, you're not acting cool enough. Now, granted, a lot of these came from my peers, and God bless peers from preteen to teen, because we can be pretty brutal to each other because we've heard it from our parents. So sadly enough, in every child, there's someone who told them they weren't funny or not cute or didn't look right or can't sing or can't dance or whatever it is an adult in our life, goodness gracious, fed us. We repeated it to somebody else and broke their spirit at some point. We're all versions of that in someone's life at some point in time, thinking we were helping them. So, I stopped being as goofy. I really started to mask a lot of my tendencies, my stimming, my ways of interacting with people. I literally copied and pasted what I saw my peers doing, because everybody wants to fit in when you're 10 or 12 or 16. And I didn't realize what I was doing, because no one does until it's too late, but I was chipping away pieces of me. And I became a version of what I assumed everybody would like of me. And then when I turned into a teenager, it was like I had this inner struggle of like getting back and then also fitting into what I saw on TV and my peers. And so there were moments where I just did not know what to do with myself. And so I just did what was simple and then just existed enough to get through the teen years. But then it's like in the 20s, you have an idea of the adult version of you. And that adult version of you is so ready to take on the world. And so that version of myself wasn't really a version of me because I had no idea what I was doing. But I knew being silly and goofy and like childish was just not part of it. She had to go. So I lost that version of myself. Then on top of that layer, I found myself watching as I was told what it meant to be a woman in the church and what it meant to be a Christian in that space and that time for me. And oh God, she seemed really boring, but like you do what you do because absolutely no one wants to like be that person. So I fit in line. And I repeated the things that I was supposed to be, quiet, not too loud, like you want to be kind of like the untouched white rose, pure and sweet and innocent. And it totally felt gross. Like a lot of the things that I was told to do was for the gaze of a male. But that Ashley didn't know any better. And so she took those lessons with her and she went into relationships with that same behavior. And it didn't fit me because I definitely was not quiet. And I definitely was not like, oh, who can come and save me now that thou art here? Wasn't me at all. And I felt broken because I wasn't able to be that version that everybody was telling me I should be. I was just really confused, but I knew I was going to get it right. So once I decided I was going to move to another country and do mission work, I was like, now I'm going to be that woman. I'm doing the Lord's work and I'm going to find me a husband in the field, like in the field, guys. And that version of me will be what I've been fighting and told I need to be. And I watched all of these women walked before me in these roles of pastors' wives, youth pastors' wives, like church deacons, and what that all looked like and meant. So when I finally met someone, I did my darnest to fit that. And even though the shoes didn't fit right, and the words didn't exactly feel smooth coming out of my throat, and even though the behaviors felt a little itchy, I did it. And then it started to feel really, really wrong. And so I told my partner, this doesn't seem, I don't know, I'm not really feeling it. Now that I've gotten a little bit more time to think about it and a little bit space away from those things, I don't want to do it. But I was cheered on to keep trying because that's what you're supposed to do, and that's what our family is supposed to look like, and that's the box we're supposed to fit in. And so I promised I would try. So no more tattoos, no more dancing because that's provocative, and no crop tops. Goodness gracious me. But then that became resentment. And so I began this journey on figuring out why I was doing these things and why it was so hard for me to even do these things and why it made me mad when I did do these things. And so it just became a ball of me being so mad at myself for even thinking that this was normal, because it's not. How can this be normal, right? Why do we make each other do this? Who set these rules up? Is this even supposed to be a thing? Or did we just fall in line blindly because we thought that this was going to give us enough gold stars to get through the gold gates so that then we can be called that, so then we could be called his? Like, does this really make sense? Does he even care about this kind of stuff? Or is it man who cares about this stuff? I don't care about this stuff. I hate it. Not doing this anymore. So I decided to take the 2-star rating from my peers and yet start to find and give myself a 10-star rating to be able to breathe a little bit easier and to have words that were authentically mine flow out a little bit more. And yes, that included cussing, because I didn't cuss for years because that's not what you're supposed to do. And I'm not supposed to be loud, but then I started getting loud about Black Lives Matters and LGBTQ community, and hey, you can't say that around me because I'm not okay with that. I'm an ally. That felt good. That came out a lot easier than John 3:16. So I started moving differently and started wearing the crop tops, and my belly was like, girl, where's the sun been, and why haven't you let us speak to him? Because this is life. And the crop top with the breeze on a summer day in Juarez feels just right. So I got a 1-star rating from my peers, but 10-star rating for myself, because this felt right. What's that song? How could this feel so right yet be so wrong? I mean, I'm not getting it, but people keep telling me about this box that I have slipped into and peered out of, and yet I just am so over it. Can we not talk about the box anymore? So then I said I give up. I'm just going for it. Like, nothing else is working, and I feel like I'm not able to be me. So I just started being me. I stopped worrying about what other people might say by the words and the ways I dressed. I knew people were going to look at me different. I started changing my hair and wearing bright colors in my hair and being loud with my fashion. And then I realized, even though the first times walking out in these newnesses, versions, parts of myself felt awkward, it also felt like home, because this was the version of me when I was 5 that gave no F's about what people thought. And she had so much fun with it, and her funness allowed other people to be authentically themselves. So I came back home to myself. It was a rough journey, and I'm still learning, because life is a journey, guys. But that's authenticity to me, and that's me being authentic. It's getting back to that version of myself. Granted, I'm wiser, curvier, and I do feel I'm a lot more funnier, but she would be so proud of me. It took a lot of peeling back the layers, and it took a lot of guessing and doubting and fear, but I think I'm on the right track. I think each day I choose to sit and move in my work, in my motherhood, in my partnership, in my friendship, honest with myself and honest with my wants and my needs, and communicating that with the people around me, allowing myself to be, just be and not do. I get closer to being the most healthiest version of myself I've known since I was a kid. So there were things I learned and have learned, and I'm continuing learning. It's authenticity is not another mask you put on. Authenticity is removing all the masks and being completely vulnerable and scared. That's part of it. Part of it is also shedding the people, places, and things that would rather see you with a mask on than off with authenticity. Authenticity also means asking yourself, who am I? Like, who she be? And then taking days, weeks, months, years to let yourself whisper the answers. Sometimes we need to put ourselves around other authentic people who are just living as themselves, unafraid of society or what other people say, because that gives us the courage and the empathy and also the power to do it ourselves. So I went and I made sure my circle was that, because I needed the encouragement. It's terrifying being authentic. But it's also so much fun and so much easier. I don't apologize for anything that I am. That makes no sense for you to either. So here are some affirmations I've used for myself to help me be authentically me. Remember, you can always tweak them, change them, or not use them at all. But it's for whoever might need them. Knowing that we all started somewhere and being on the journey together. Thanks.